see who get unwound. The Central Texas Range, the strongest train around. Next on the curve where I first got clean, I say hello to some of my friends. I might stop by the Guadalupe Dam, jump in that river for little plans. I can't forget about Luke and Bob. I packed my guitar this time. The picker circle starts right at 3, and playing with them guys gets me high. The Texas Hill Country.
Live from Houston, Texas, this is Big Ideas, Small Business with your hosts, Brian Gendron and Shavonnah Robert Schreiber. And now, the music of Max Flynn.
Starting to feel a little crazy again. I think it's time I start to pack my things. The city life has really got me down.
Welcome to Big Ideas, Small Business, a show by business owners for business owners, entrepreneurs, intrapreneurs, side hustlers. We're here to get you in business and keep you in business. I'm Brian Gendron. With me, as always, Shavonnah Robert Schreiber. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I am excellent. Happy to be here. We've got a great guest today. Very excited about the show.
Me too. I'm excited because I did a little bit of homework before our guest today, and I was all proud of myself. And then I didn't quite turn in the assignment before the due date, but that's okay. It's the effort that counts sometimes, right?
Absolutely. So let's bring him aboard. So this is a native Texan. He is known for most recently founding the rideshare company Alto, an elevated rideshare. We'll talk about that in a little bit, with a supreme focus on safety. They launched right in the middle of a pandemic, late 2020, last year, here in Houston. But please help me welcome Will Coleman. Will, how are you? You're on mute. There we go.
Hey, guys. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Great to be here.
Great. Thank you for being here. So I have all kinds of questions, and I just told Brian that I was a good student and did a little bit of homework before our time today and downloaded the app, but didn't quite complete the assignment and use the app before we had a chance to visit with you today. So for those that don't know what Alto is, give us the 30-second high-level value proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. At Alto, we say we're elevating the passenger and the driver experience in rideshare. Alto in Italian or Spanish means high or tall, and so we've made that mean elevated. And we really believe that we're able to offer a safer, more consistent, higher quality alternative to both our passengers and our drivers. By doing things quite a bit differently than our competitors. We have a dedicated fleet of vehicles, so when you call an Alto, you always know you're going to get a car that's operated by Alto. They're all the same, 5-passenger luxury SUVs that are 5-star crash rated for passengers and drivers from the front, rear, and side. It's a safe vehicle that's well maintained by the company, and an employee driver, not an independent contractor, which means that our drivers are trained and coached and managed to help provide a consistent, high quality experience for our customers every single ride.
That's awesome. I mean, and it sounds like something I just want. I'm like, can you just drive for me all the time? Can I just forego having to drive myself anywhere?
We've got an unlimited plan. If you're interested in that, you can.
No, seriously. I realize this, and my husband thinks it's ridiculous, but that I actually like to be driven around. And so I'm like, gosh, this just sounds like, why do I need a car if I have a service like this?
It's a great alternative. I think you can get a lot done actually I gave up my car when I founded Alto, and haven't driven myself extensively for quite some time now. And I mean, those extra 15, 20 minutes every morning, every afternoon, I can catch up on an email or just sit back and relax and get a couple minutes of stress-free decompression between my office here at our Alto headquarters and my my house where I have 4 young children. So often that extra few minutes really actually adds up to be really meaningful.
Absolutely.
Well, it's an interesting point that rideshare is obviously widely used, but maybe you're also a client, not used in the way that most of us still drive, and we still don't take advantage of that space. But if you're a busy person like Shavonnah and I imagine you as well, Will, that you can have somebody that just picks you up and drops you off, and certainly takes away the texting, emailing, driving, things that sometimes we can all be guilty of. But one thing I want to focus on specifically with you, which I'm excited about, is that you're not first to enter. And so as a result of that, you're able to say, hey, what do these big, the Lyfts and the Ubers of the world, what are their flaws and what can we elevate and do better? And the focus on safety is very, very smart, because you never know who you're going to get. There's some basic screening. You never know what vehicle you're going to get. And the fact that you guys have, put standards in place, which is what we do when we are looking to create a strong business, is have these standards that your customers can expect, and then create loyalty from there. So tell us a little bit about the being second to market, what some of those are some of the obvious advantages, maybe get into some of the disadvantages and challenges that y'all face.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really a student of the travel industry. My first 11 years in my career were spent at a big consulting firm where I served consumer travel companies, airlines, hotels, car rental companies. And it was through that work that I really got to know the traveling consumer and what they want and desire. And I also got to, be a real expert myself in the consumer travel journey. I mean, I was traveling all over the U.S. and around the world, spending months literally of my life, in the backseat of cars or in hotel rooms. And so as Uber and Lyft got bigger and bigger, more ubiquitous, I say, and covered more of the places that I went, I also found that they became significantly less consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And that as a traveler, that consistency or lack thereof for me personally was a really big challenge. I might be on my way to an important meeting with a client. I might be trying to take a conference call while in the backseat of a car, and not knowing, who the driver was going to be, whether they were going to be safe, whether the car was going to be safe, what music was going to be playing, what the car might smell like, or what I might smell like when I got out of it, were all kind of risks that I wasn't really that excited about taking. And I also found that my wife didn't even have either of these apps on her phone. She was actually not participating in the category at all unless I was calling the car and we were traveling together. And a lot of the research that we did on the space found that actually that women were half as likely to be active riders as men, primarily due to concerns for their own personal safety. And I think, those of us that live in more kind of suburban, urban suburban cities understand that, because you live in a home, a single family residence. Many people do in a Houston area, and so the intimacy of getting picked up at your house is much different than if you're in New York or San Francisco, where maybe you're getting dropped off. Most people are living in multifamily high rises or really dense neighborhoods where the person picking you up or dropping you off doesn't know exactly where you live. That's very, very different in many U.S. cities. And so it was the combination of all these things, as well as an understanding of their business models and the challenges and opportunities that they faced, that really helped me, develop the thesis behind Alto, that we could solve for this consumer need, create something that was safe, consistent, high quality, that people were willing, frankly, to pay just a little bit more for, because that's the other challenge that these companies have, is that they've created a commodity. Most of us choose that have both of the apps on our phone, and many customers choose between an Uber or Lyft for just a couple cents or maybe a time. It's a really, really, really challenging segment to be in, and to have to force that kind of pricing discipline. And so what I learned in the travel space was that people do really focus on price, but they also care a lot about experience, and that by differentiating the experience, we could target a segment of customers that were willing to make that trade-off, a little bit higher price for a better value. And that's what we set out to build, and that we've been able to, I think, do pretty successfully. It does come with challenges. I mean, Brian, you mentioned the fact that there's two big players out there with tons of money, a head start. It's set a minimum bar that's quite high in terms of what people expect from technology and convenience. And we know that that's those are real challenges because they have spent a lot and of time and money to get to where they are. But we believe that this is a huge market, several $1 trillion in the U.S. alone, and that there are ways that we can differentiate, decommoditize, and separate ourselves from them.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I always do, and I even did it, just very recently, is to the point that you made about consistency. So I used to travel to San Diego a lot. And once I got picked up by whatever Uber's premium service is, and the guy was great. And so I got his number and I never used Uber again. I just would call him directly, and he is even today. If I go to San, when I go to San, he's my guy. And in any city I go to, if I have a good experience, then I get the card of the person and I'll say, I'll just call you directly. Because if I'm not going to play the game in the app, because you never know who you're going to get. And to the point you made, I was in an Uber recently, and the smell was terrible. I mean, and it's just like you said, it's just the inconsistency, not even just of the actual experience in the ride, but even as a traveler, as a business traveler, mostly from city to city, how you access it. Because, for example, you don't have a lot of time to wait, and I would rather be picked up in the airport at the limo line, because it's a different experience than at the sort of cattle call. Sometimes it's in a parking garage. Sometimes it's upper level, lower. I mean, it can be very confusing and frustrating, especially if you're, really trying to maximize your time. So just the idea of consistent experience, I feel like from a business perspective would really be appealing, especially to those business travelers. And then obviously even just people who are traveling for personal reasons, but want a certain level of service and an experience every time if they can get it.
Yeah, you're exact. That was my exact experience too. I started using the apps, and then I reverted back to more traditional means of mobility. I had my guy in Dallas and in Florida and in Chicago, all the places that I went regularly. I just had somebody that I knew I could count on and trust. But that comes with a bunch of disadvantages too, because if that guy's busy, you might just send somebody else, and then if he's any good, he's going to be busy.
Right. True.
And it might take longer. You can't do it online. And so we wanted to really bring together the best of both of these things to create that same sense of consistency and quality that you can come to expect. Every single Alto driver is trained for 3 days. Before they hit the road. They are, they're uniformed and certified to provide the same level of service as any other driver. So you don't have a favorite driver because everyone is the same. And what's great about that is it means we can offer you a similar level of convenience, because you can book it in the app, and we have, lots of drivers, lots of vehicles out on the road, and therefore can then be there on demand, which is, where everybody's headed, right? Fewer and fewer people are spending that time planning. And so it brings together best of both of those worlds.
Another thing I noticed is that you've aligned with some luxury brands that I would say position themselves as brands that provide a consistent level of service, consistent quality in their vehicles. For example, Jaguar Land Rover. I know on your website that was listed as one of those partnerships. So tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, Brian knows we've talked a lot about after, the pandemic, or I guess we're still in the pandemic, but this sort of being the year of partnerships and people really looking to how they can work together in unique ways to really gain a bit of traction. So tell us a little bit about those partnerships, and maybe there are others, but those just were two that stood out, and how you were working with those brands.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. It's kind of crazy to think that almost exactly a year ago, our world changed pretty dramatically, basically overnight. For us at Alto in the travel space, you can imagine, we lost 95% of our trip volume and revenue, essentially, within a 24-hour time period when stay-at-home orders went into effect. Everybody stopped traveling. Business travel, as we just talked about, made up almost 40% of our revenue, and that still hasn't come back. Very few people are traveling for work these days. And so we spent a significant portion of 2020, really rethinking our business and getting, in some ways it was incredibly stressful, some of the most stressful time of my professional career, but in many ways also very exciting because it gave us this unique opportunity where the business was already put into such a risky situation. I told my team, there's really nothing you can do today that is more risky than the risk that's already been laden on us. And so it provided a sense of freedom almost to try things that, we may not have tried or to try. And so one of those things was we tested into a new part of our business that we call B2B partnerships, where we're serving businesses directly so that they can better serve their customers, their employees, with rides or deliveries. And we see that as this pandemic has played out, we're nearing the other side, but we think that people's behaviors are going to be kind of forever changed in much the same way they were after 9/11. The people's duty of care, other companies' duty of care, whether it's your employer or the business that you're doing, that you're a customer of, their care to you in terms of ensuring that they're providing you a safe and high quality experience, but starting with safe is really, really important. And so we've aligned our brand to be able to serve other brands that have that duty of care, have that same expectation and values for consumer experience, to be able to serve their customers. And so we're now doing that with a range of car dealers that use Alto to optimize their loaner fleet. Oftentimes, they don't have a big enough set of loaner cars in order to really serve all of the customers that they can with their service center. And so they use Alto to provide rides to and from their dealership for their customers. Again, they can offer that clean, consistent, high quality experience that you wouldn't get with anyone else. And it aligns with brands like Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Porsche, and others. And also high-end hotels, not only high-end, everything from Marriott and Westin to the Four Seasons, and other local brands that are looking again to provide their clientele, their guests, with a better experience getting to or from the airport, or maybe going out to dinner at night, instead of using a house car, which is obviously very limiting for a hotel, where you might have it sit idle for many hours of the day, and then all the guests want to go to dinner at the same time, and so you only have one car. With Alto, we can flex to meet their demand, and even medical offices, retailers that are looking to compete with Amazon and do delivery of same-day goods, we can offer that same kind of Amazon-like same-day delivery to any retailer of any size, because we can consolidate their demand with all of the other demand and be able to, for the same price that they could use to ship something overnight or in 2 days, we can get it to their customer the same day. So there's a ton of that sort of thing that really is totally new in our business in 2020, and just the result of trying new things and seeing what worked as part of the pandemic.
Hey, Will, wonderful execution on that stuff. I mean, one of my favorite things to think about, especially you're in the B2C space for the most part. And when you're in the B2C space, you think about, how do I market directly to my customer? And you get trapped into that narrow view. But if you just look to your left and to your right, you can see everybody who's trying to get to that same customer. And so how can you align and work together strategically through business development to make those things happen? So my question for you is, and this is really, I think, meaningful to a lot of our listeners, is walk us through, how did you approach those businesses? How did you get these deals done? Because I think that's, again, well executed.
Yeah, I mean, we're lucky that I think, in many ways our product speaks for itself, right? And the differentiation in our product, when we show it to others and they really see and understand that difference, it's the same experience that our customers have, our consumer customers have, which is once we get them to try it, once we get somebody in an Alto, it's very hard for them to go back. So, I think I feel really proud of the fact that we've built something that has that kind of stickiness, and I think that's a big way in which we've been able to create a lot of these partnerships with our businesses. And I think the other way is that because we did start with such a consumer focus, We built in Dallas, in our initial market here, and now in Houston and Los Angeles, we built a pretty compelling customer base, right? I mean, we really did have a set of consumers that were valuable, not obviously to us, but to others as well. And so that's opened up a set of partnerships that we call win-win-win. Great for us, great for our partner, and great for our joint consumer. One of those recently is a company called JSX. They're a new airline that's been on the West Coast for some time. They just entered Texas. They've got a really loyal following in California. We've got an incredibly loyal following of similar customers here in Texas. And so we've really been able to offer great benefits to both our customers, them offering introductory offers to their loyal customers in California, and us extending introductory offers to JSX to our loyal Alto customers here in Texas. And so it creates, again, this really symbiotic relationship where it's great for our customer. They get a targeted but also very valuable offer to receive credit to fly essentially for free on a new airline that's operating between Dallas and Houston and other markets. And it's great for us because we get a whole new set of eyeballs and earballs, or ears at least. I guess they're not earballs, but ears and eyes in a new market where we're trying to extend our presence. So I think it is like really thinking through, who has those similar values, that similar set of customers, and obviously having a great product to share. I mean, we wouldn't want to do those partnerships with somebody we didn't think had a similar kind of bar on quality and experience as we do, but there are a lot of brands out there that align with us in that way.
Well, one of the things that I'm thinking, a couple things. Number one, that you stay true to your values, that you didn't look for, I mean, it was a dire year. I mean, in many cases, in many ways, it still feels like, a dire time for many businesses. And it's very tempting to say, okay, to the point you made earlier, we really have nothing to lose, so we'll try anything. But that's not what you did. You really were strategic in making sure that you could create that win-win-win, and holding true to your values and making sure that you found partners where you were vision aligned and the type of service you wanted to deliver. Because then, I mean, it may have been a bit more difficult, and you tell me if I'm wrong, on the front end to hold true, to not let price alone drive how you're going to develop your business. But then once you get it going and once you get momentum in those partnerships, then I would imagine it's easier to bring on additional partners once you have a proof of concept with a few really high quality partners. So that came to mind, just the importance to your point of making sure you get alignment before you partner. And then also, I think, especially in this world where the Amazon effect, right, where it is believed, if perhaps it is true, that almost anything you want or need, you can purchase on Amazon. I still think, though, there is a segment of the population that wants a different type of service or a different type of quality, and whether it's a physical product that, a piece of clothing or cookware, or an experience like a ride service or car service. And it's easy to think that that market isn't big enough to justify business, but I feel like what you all are doing at Alto is proving that it is. And I think about Tim Ferriss and how he talks about, you don't need to have all of the customers. You need to have the 100 loyal, or maybe it's 1,000 now, but whatever the small number of loyal followers, and that's enough to really stake and grow your business. Because I was thinking when you mentioned the car dealerships that you partner with, and I'm thinking, okay, so if I'm a customer of that car dealership and Alto comes to pick me up, and I'm in the car, and I'm looking around and I see the logo anywhere, I'm going to say, well, what is this? And then I'm going to look it up on my phone. Then I'm going to ask the driver about it. And so then the next
code for that, you don't even have to look it up.
Oh, see? And then the next time I am thinking about a car service, if what you say is true, and I believe that it is, that the experience is so high quality, I'm going to at a minimum try you one time. Like, oh, let me just see. And if I try you once and it's like, okay, no, this is far and above what I can experience other places, I definitely will come back. So I just think that's brilliant, how it all played out and how it all worked together, because you stuck true to those partners that were vision aligned. Super important.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one other thing that we didn't put on the table in 2020 was those core values, right? I mean, we were
Mm-hmm.
willing to test pretty much anything, but we decided, that it was the brand that we had built was really the value that we had left without any business. What was still valuable about our company was what were our values and our brand and what those stood for. And so we were totally unwilling to compromise in any way on those core values of safety, consistency, and quality. And knowing that certainly puts us in a some sort of box, but that really had to be true for us to be successful.
So one follow-up question to that, and I know I'm sure Brian has some other things he's noodling on. What advice would you give the entrepreneur who may be in that spot where they're thinking, okay, I have to be creative. I have to think of some other way to attract new customers, break into new markets, and it feels very attractive. It is very attractive to compromise a bit. Like, what did you tell yourself? What did you tell your colleagues and employees to help everyone stay the course, even when it would have maybe in some ways been easier to compromise a bit on those values? What were some of those motivating factors?
Yeah, I mean, I think because we were so strong in our differentiators to start, that would probably be my number one piece of advice, which I ask entrepreneurs all the time. They tell me, here's my idea, and I say, okay, sounds like a great idea. Like, how are just tell me in 2 or 3 words, like, how are you different? What are the things that people are going to choose you versus someone else for? And if you can get very strong conviction around those 2 or 3 things, then I think you need to defend those at all costs, right? And so that's what I've always believed. That's what we founded the company on, were those 3 things: safety, consistency, quality. And so we just said, those are non-negotiable. And if we can't do it safely, we're not going to do it. And if we can't do it with consistency, we're not going to do it. And so that sets a set of guiding principles, I guess you could call them.
Mm-hmm.
And it still leaves so much open, right? Well, let's figure out how we can do this safely. Immediately after the pandemic, we said, okay, well, this is in our DNA. We should be able to do this better than anyone else. Let's read the science. Let's understand what's happening. Let's get ahead of the curve. In February, we were watching what was happening in Asia and Europe and planning already. We were buying masks and procuring HEPA air filters and doing getting ahead of the curve, because we knew something was coming. We didn't know exactly what, and we definitely didn't. I wish I could tell you that we anticipated the impacts, but we didn't really fully understand. But we did know that. But what we stand for means this, and so we need to be prepared for it. And I think that's the advice that I would give entrepreneurs: is decide what are your non-negotiables, and then figure out how to work around them, because there's always a way.
I'm gonna, I mean, a lot of admiration of your tactical. However, what I'd like to focus on for a minute, and this is more future-looking, strategic planning. So you were, it's more or less, it sounds like, in some ways, stopped in your tracks. We have to change how we're doing things. Not at the core, we're still doing things, and we have this approach, but we're going to be doing things very differently, and it seems to be working out for you. So as you go through that, how are you intentionally, and are you taking the time to adjust your strategic plan, your long-term planning? How often are you revisiting that? Because I am terrible at this in my own business, and so I'd love to hear how you do.
I'd love to tell you that we took the time and had the foresight to adjust our long-term strategic plan. I don't think we really. I mean, the honest truth is that we did some very tactical planning in the middle of 2020, but things were so uncertain that it did. I mean, even in prepping for board meetings, we were basically trying to forecast the next 6 to 10 weeks, and struggling to go beyond that. And so we really didn't, we went through this period of time where visibility was incredibly constrained, an understanding of the different paths that the virus could take, and the reactions that the public and governments would have to that was very hard to know. And so instead, we really just focused again on trying to learn as much as we possibly could to inform our strategic plan coming out of it. And it wasn't really until in December and frankly, even into January of this year that we kind of sat down and said, okay, take a deep breath. We've been in this for a while. We've got much better visibility now. Not perfect, but it feels like the fog is wearing off. We've learned a ton. Here's what we've learned. This is what worked. This is what didn't work. This is what we're gonna, this is what we're gonna continue to invest in. These are the things we're gonna, kind of sunset and wind down. And so it was honestly probably 9 or 10 months in until we really were able to have a much more robust strategic plan. But I think that was actually the right decision. I mean, even in hindsight, I think that we would have otherwise kind of spun our wheels in planning rather than taking the opportunity to learn and in many ways also just survive, right? I mean, we were in some days just saying, how do we keep everybody employed? How do we drive enough revenue to just kind of eke by today? And so, I think maybe in the Maslow's hierarchy, we were still in the gain shelter.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that's great thank you for your transparency, because I do think that we put a lot of emphasis on the plan, right? I mean, it's up until 2020. I think, if any book you read on business, any person you heard, any podcast was, you got to have a plan, you got to execute against the plan. But the truth is, sometimes the plan is, like you said, just can we make it through today? The plan is paying attention, paying attention to what's happening and learning the best you can, because that's all you can do. And to the point that you made, Will, otherwise you spin and you get into this analysis paralysis. And so it feels like you're doing the right thing, but you're not actually making any progress because you can't in that way. So, I mean, I think that that's the truth is, for a lot of this, for all of us in business, at some point, there comes a point where you have to say, okay, what can I do to get through the next 30 days, 60 days, 3 weeks, whatever it is, for now, because of whatever the circumstances are, and then get back on track with the longer term planning. And that's okay. I think it's important for our listeners to know, don't feel bad if that's the phase that you're in right now, where it's like, we have to make the next move be the most optimal, not the next 5 moves. And that's okay.
I'm not exactly proud of it, quite frankly, because it was painful, but for 5 months, starting in late March and through the end of the summer last year, we literally had daily 8:30 a.m. meetings. And by daily, I mean every single day, Monday through Sunday, every single day at 8:30 with our entire executive team. The 5 of us would get up and get on a call or video and say, what are we doing today? What did we do yesterday? What worked and what didn't? And what are we going to do today? Because it was that unclear for so long. And so forget weekly planning. We couldn't even make it a weekend, without that kind of tactical kind of alignment and execution on what was next. And I think that's just the reality. Hopefully, it doesn't get that bad for any other entrepreneurs out there. But I think that is the reality. Sometimes it's got to just be, how are we going to make it the next week?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Found some resolve as an executive team, so you can survive anything now. It must feel like
we spent a lot of breakfast together. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll build the team. So one of the things that we do at this, we do these in 2 parts, and so I'm trying to net out one of the things that was really inspiring from today in our talk with you, Will, and certainly in execution, and then your business development strategy and execution specifically. And so what we'll do is we'll take a panel of other business owners and we'll do this next month based on our talk today, and have a discussion around that. So Shavonnah, are you game for business development and strategic
it's my favorite topic is business development.
Absolutely.
Marketer, but a salesperson at my core. So yeah, absolutely. I'm game.
You've got no business if you don't develop it.
I mean, thank you, Will. Exactly.
That's well said. So we know our way forward as our podcast, as the day turns. We would like to know our way forward, working with you for our listeners. How can they find Alto? How can they use your app and your services? Anything else you'd like to share about your product?
Yeah, we'd love for people to give us a try. We're always looking to get that next person in the car and have them try us so they'll never go back. You can find us at ridealto.com, ridealto.com/download if you'd like to be pointed directly to our app in either the Apple Store or Google Play. Or you can just search for us in either of those platforms as well on Google Play or the App Store on your Apple device. And set up an account and give us a try to give you a ride.
Very good. Thank you so much, Will, for taking the time to join us today. We'll hope to have you back sometime soon and wish you all the success. And I'll be getting a ride from your service this very weekend if it's available.
Can't wait.
Yes, me and my wife will.
I'm going to tell. So should we tell people we know you or no? Like, I'm like, does that make it better? Or does that make it a more stressful experience if we say, well, we talked to Will? I mean, I don't know. You tell us.
You can use the code I know the CEO in your app to get 2 free rides. So how about that?
Awesome.
That's a good way to
look at that.
To tell everybody who I am and get some benefit for it as well.
That's excellent. Thanks for sharing that. And I prefer the secret shopper method, and then let you know after how my experience.
Yeah, that's what my real friends do. Is they don't tell anybody, and then they just email me.
Well, call me a real friend. And listen, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Will, for joining. Shavonnah, it's always great to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you for listening. Get out there and close some business.
Central Texas reigns the strongest drink I found.
Thank you for listening to Big Ideas Small Business. Follow us at BISB Media and visit our website at www.bisbmedia.com.